Hey, welcome to the Infinite Creator. I'm Beth Lapidus. So, listen, there's the work and there's talking about the work. And today we're going to talk about talking about it. It is such a huge piece of the equation: what to say, when to say it, how to say it. And at first, it's about the work and it's about talking with your people, your inner circle. And then it's about the finished work and talking about it publicly. So, the talking about it publicly, we're going to leave off questions about which platform, when, how frequently. I mean, these are always changing. And even so, it's case by case. But there are some super useful, dependable core ideas. I would say even strategies, maybe even secrets about talking about it. So, let's start. Let's start with the part of talking about it that comes while you're working on the thing. The part of talking about it that can be very helpful or very destructive. It's a fine line, and learning to walk that fine line is so super critical to success. And I'm going to say super critical to sanity. And here's the thing, the part of talking about it that is helpful is thinking out loud. Like, there is something about listeners who have the ears to hear that just makes you say it differently, makes you say it better. Like on stage, it's so magical. The right audience will help you find the line that you couldn't find in your notebook. And I think it's like the urge, the hunger to communicate, that desire, that it just lights the flame of articulating. There they are. They want to hear. And oh my God, oh my God. Where did that even come from? It came from that magic, right? So sometimes I think of the right audience as a poultice, literally drawing it out from you. They want you to say it, to be brilliant. And that matters, like in a way, more than you can ever measure. So when you're talking about it, not with an audience, just with people, you want to do it with people that feel like that. Just their energy makes you feel clearer. Like, okay, once I was shopping for therapists and I was talking to two, same presenting issues. One therapist made my spiel and my issues seem like so coherent. Like, I could work on this. And the other one, when I was finished, she said to me, well, I don't see what the problem is. Well, of course not, because like I was so distracted by her naked feet up on a hassock an inch from my face and her messy desk and the fact that she seemed jealous. So yeah, no, it wasn't clear what the problem was. So those are two really different kinds of listening situations. I was the same, but as I talked about it, it just came out completely different. So that's the kind of difference. You know, there are people who have loving ears, but you still want to steer away from. People who, when you talk about it, like their friends or family, and despite loving you, they might be jealous of you or worried about you. They might doubt you, or they might even want it too much for you. Something that will dampen your enthusiasm, somehow, that despite loving you, they just don't get you. So careful there, right? And it's weird because I've seen people become so deflated by going to the same person over and over again. They say that thing about, don't try to get water from a dry well. It's this, and I have a guess why, which is that creative people, we're very stubborn. We're required to be stubborn. Without stubbornness, none of the work gets done. But suggestion, try putting the stubbornness into the work, not into insisting that your best friend, who's a lawyer brain, is just always making a case, not looking for nuance like you need them to. They might not be a good person to be creatively vulnerable with. That's dry well. Don't go there. So it's tricky because I was coaching a client this week and she's working on a brilliant book, and was about to see some of the people in the book. And she said these people are really happy she's writing it. And that may be completely true. And I'm even willing to believe it is true. But still, I wanted to look at, like, is it too soon? What about the timing? because it can be the right person, but not the right time. Sometimes the project is undercooked. Like with food, the chef knows what it's gonna taste like. They know what they're doing, but maybe you can't like take a taste and jump ahead and like, you might not be able to make the leap that the chef can make. That your work might be undercooked in that way. Um, it's also could be too soon because if you talk about something before it solidifies, early on you need it to be malleable, like it's still becoming. And saying it out loud can sometimes break it because people want to help and they start making suggestions. And did you ask? No, you did not. And yet there they go, telling you exactly what you need to do to fix it. Guess what? It's not broken. I just started. And you will never get back to your own space with just the project. It's gone. So, careful there. Careful about being too soon. Good example, like how when you start seeing someone, there's that part where you just think like it's too soon to go public. Yeah, think about your project like that. Like it's a love affair with your project. One other really big deal, if you tell people who you have a relationship and they see that it might be successful, or maybe even that it will fail, they do see with this project that you might change, which means your relationship will change, which means they're going to have to change. And we all really resist change. Even people who say they love change resist change. So your project is personal to them and threatening. It's not their fault. It's not your fault. Just be gentle with them. Be yourself, because creativity is growth, is change. And finally, on this piece of the equation, say you find the perfect person to talk to, please find the perfect time for them, not you. I've learned this the hard way, bursting at the seams, like, I really want to talk about it, right? And sometimes it's just like the person is preoccupied or distracted or worried about their own thing. So I've learned to wait, or I like to think that I've learned to wait. Sometimes I still bursting at the seams. Um, and also spread it out a little bit. Have trusted conversations, multiple conversations, not too many. Again, a fine line. But one really great example how to do this in one of the Truman Capote biopics. Honestly, I forget which one. It's either Capote or Infamous. They're both great. There's this sequence where he's talking about In Cold Blood with a series of his swans. And you can see him figuring it's such a great sequence. You can see him figuring it out as he talks with these very eager ears. It wasn't one conversation, it was an accumulation of conversations. And that's a nice way to think about it. So you're not depending on just one, there's not all this weight. So I suggest caution, but talking about it like this is so valuable, because if you're overly cautious, if you don't ever talk about the work, you end up locked in an airless room with it, and that's not healthy, not good. Oxygenation is how you want to think about it. Essentially, you somehow do want to steer away from being either overexposed or hidden, the Scylla and Charybdis of talking about it. And as I'm thinking about this, I'm remembering talking about the work should help the work, right? Not just fill in a blank moment where, like, somebody says, "What are you up to?" And if you're not ready, just be like, I'm working on something I'm excited about. What is it? No. Shh. Because when you protect the work like that, you literally get a thank you note from your project in the mail. Talking about it should help the project, both in the way it becomes itself and in the way it finds people. That's the second part of talking about it. And in some ways, there's less to say about this part of it, because when you say it, where you say it, how you say it, that all keeps changing. The platforms keep changing. I mean, yeah, your work keeps changing, the way it's done keeps changing, but because it all keeps changing, the method of putting it out there is something that, that's much more temporal and that's much more idiosyncratic. So But what doesn't change is the way talking about the thing can still help you make the thing. Screenplays really can come into focus if you understand the poster, articulating exactly what's behind the work in an interview. Say you're talking to a journalist, smart journalist. Oh my God, that can be so thrilling. Like suddenly it becomes super clear. I recently helped a client who had been nominated for a very prestigious grant, and she had to write an artist statement, and that is some major talking about it, locking that artist statement in, right? But that's going to help her clarify her work for years. Huge light bulb moments in that. I just finished working on a press release for this run of It's a Lot. And writing about the show made me articulate something that's really going to help in the next rewrite. So it's all part of the same process. It's one of the infinity signs, talking about it and doing it. Finding the language about the work helps the work become itself, which helps you talk about the work. And it's one of the best kinds of feedback loops, or one of the best infinity loops. The path reveals itself as you walk on the path. So recently, I remembered this early career victory. I won the senior art prize at Brown. And after I found out I won, my advisor told me it wasn't for the work itself, which was photographic monoprints, PS, but for the way I talked about the work. And honestly, I was very hurt. It hadn't occurred to me that I was being rewarded for writing, or that writing would be the thing under everything I did. I really did not get that. I really did not. And I used the money to build a dark room. Never once used it. Done with photography. Moved on to making one-of-a-kind books. Back to the writing. Yeah. So yeah, it's just the work, talking about the work, talking about the work. So here's the thing. As necessary as talking about the work is, there will always be something in your work that can't be talked about. Something that's there just for the people who are there, in the room, in the book, the theater, the gallery, the headphones, that are there for that magic thing. And when you talk about it, always be protecting that. Yeah. So thanks so much for being with me today. Go do all the things, like, share, comment, subscribe, talk about it. Until next time, I'm Beth Lapidus.